All right, let's get it going. Yo, peace and love. Tim, Walter, thanks for joining me. It's a bit long overdue. I know that we've been trying to do this for a long time, so I'm glad it finally happened. And thank you for joining me on Hip Hop Could Save America. What's good?
What's up, yo? Great to see you. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes,
Pleasure,
indeed.
pleasure. Thank you.
Nah, the honor's mine. Do me a favor. I could read bios, but sometimes that changes from day to day, from the last time you wrote it to what you're doing today. So if you could just quickly introduce yourselves and how you like to present yourselves to the world in the context of why we're talking today.
That's you, OG.
Go
You
ahead,
hit it
bro. You
off.
first. You go first. You
Oh,
go.
bro.
You go
All
first,
right.
man. Go
So my
ahead.
name's Walter Greason. I'm a professor of history at McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota. But born and raised on the East Coast, came up just south of New Brunswick, New Jersey. Been doing work on hip hop nationwide for 30 years. Taught my first class in hip hop in '94. Crazy connections to Illmatic and Nas, but manifested and made real by my man Tim Fielder.
Yeah, indeed. Passing the mic.
Yeah. I am Tim Fielder, visual Afrofuturist and graphic novelist. Uh, Now pretty much joined at the hip with the endowed chair of McAllister College, Dr. Walter
That's what's up.
Greason. And he lost his mind a few years ago and decided to partner with me to create the graphic history of hip hop, this thing here. And it has changed my life. Yeah, there we go.
Got
It
mine here.
has changed my life. It has allowed me to travel all over the country and soon the world. And I don't know what else. It has made me a better artist.
Hmm.
And because it's forced me to deal with a lot of what is it, come to circle moments over the course of my career. And
Okay.
I'm just grateful to be here.
Very dope. Real quick, Walt, my mother was from New Brunswick. My daddy was from Newark. So I got some New Jersey roots myself. I grew up on Long Island. So definitely and I did the thing that New Yorkers do and I moved to Atlanta. So it is what it is. Tim, whereabouts you from?
I'm from Clarksdale, Mississippi,
Okay.
but I came to New York in a year and a half. It'll be 40 years.
Okay. All
So I
right.
now live in the El Barrio neighborhood of
Got you.
Manhattan. Yep.
Got you. Very cool. I love some folks with New York, New Jersey roots.
Yep.
Oh
Little
man, you talking
biased.
about Long Island? That's where my wife's family all from
Oh,
Laurelton, Queens, going out Valley Stream. Yeah,
that's
man, we
it.
do
Yep.
all the boroughs we represent.
That's what's up. Yep. Six Borough, Long Island, Strong Island. I grew up in Westbury, so let's go. I see
Yep.
some Long Island represented here as it should be. So listen, let's start sort of at this just to to put this on folks' radar. I obviously want to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty, but the graphic history of hip hop been out for a while now. Again, this is long overdue, but no less relevant than the day it came out. What you said, Walt, he said you lost your mind trying to partner up with this guy. How did that combination come together? What was the impetus for the book? What started the idea, the spark to make this thing from thought to reality?
Yeah, so if you look very carefully at Tim's hat, you'll see it says Civics for All Education Group, New York City Public Schools.
Yes.
And so our main man, Joe Schmidt, over there, he runs that Civics for All group. They've been publishing comics and graphic art for several years. I've done a number of projects for him for their Hidden Voices textbook that looked at Black history, mainly published because of the pandemic, so people could have extra resources at home.
Right.
But he came to me in December of 22 and said, listen, is it even possible that we could do some kind of comic book about the history of hip hop? And I was like, oh my God, yes. Yeah.
Right.
And I know just the artist that needs to come up with this. Because I had seen Tim do just this brilliant work. We work in this group called the Black Speculative Arts Movement, and he did a project explaining how to end nuclear weapons and their spread around the world. And literally in the conversation, as everybody was talking about the different ways to go about the plan, he illustrated everything in minutes. And I was like, dope. What's like next
Right.
time I get a chance for a project, I'm calling Tim first. And that's what happened December 22. Jumped on board. Joe Schmidt gave us the green light. I want to say it took about 3 months for Tim to train me on how to write a comic script. And then like another 6, 7 months where he just did all the visuals. New
Right.
York took about a month to kind of make it work for the classroom setting. And November of 23, 3 months after the 50th anniversary, the school system released 100,000 copies of the comic
150,
citywide. The teachers, the
150,000.
students went nuts. Like, they were chasing us through buildings, demanding more copies. And so we came out of that in December and we're like, yo, this is much bigger than anything we expected to see. And that's where Tim and I collaborated a little bit and expanded it from the 24-page comic that
Right.
was free for the school to a 90-page graphic novel that we could sell as the graphic history company. And all of 2024, like April of 2024, it was on just DC, Atlanta, New Orleans, Minnesota, California, everybody around the world. 4 billion people were like linking up to our websites trying to get copies immediately. #1 on Amazon. And then it just hasn't stopped. Like, every time we think we can take a breath, a whole nother group of people come along and demand more. And now we're right on the edge of doing volume 2. But yeah, that's
dope.
the real quick look at how everything happened.
That's dope. First of all, I just wrote a book, and I hate you all because no one reads my book yet. But I'm not gonna gatekeep around here. It's fine. I'll talk to other authors,
We're
whatever.
gonna push you. We're gonna push your stuff, man. Let's go. Let's go, Manny.
My book just came out. There's plenty. We got legs. I got long tail. Long tail.
Oh, you already
on
got
mine.
your cover art done?
Huh? Oh, my book's out. My book is done.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying your book was about to come out. I was like, what's happening with your cover
I'll
art?
get you for the. I'll get you for the sequel. We'll get you for
good.
that.
No,
Good,
bro.
good,
We're
good.
gonna
stayed
push
with the
that
branding.
original copy right now. That's what we're doing.
It's all good. Tim, your background in art, how did you get into a fantastic artist? And, as someone who writes a lot of words, and well, you just kind of mentioned this, like you had to like change how you write words because you write differently for comic. But I don't know, maybe it's a different type of the part of the brain. Graffiti was never my element, but to see someone be able to capture like real life stuff, especially, in minutes or in seconds, I've seen live drawing done before. And just the kind of swag that you bring to these drawings. Where was your background in art and design? How did that happen for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. It makes it look much more controlled than it actually was. But for myself, I started as an editorial cartoonist for a lot of each village, rags, music magazine. So I did a lot of early hip hop illustrations in the late 80s, moving to the early 90s, culminating in an unpublished 64-page, fully painted Dr. Dre graphic novel for Marvel Comics. It was never published. Don't worry, I still got the original. We're gonna put it out one day, very soon.
Okay,
that was 30 years ago this year.
That's a gem.
But what happened was, in that time while I was working, I ended up doing a lot of illustrations of people like Queen Latifah, PM Dawn, just a lot of work I had done in that area. Even though I myself, I'm a square, I'm an alternative jazz, black rock guy, right?
Got it.
But I was able to always use that love for editorial cartoon, for sequential art into the work. Now, over the years since that time, what's happened is I've become pretty prolific portraiture artist, I would say at this point. I would like to, I just dabble. Nah, at this point, I'm about 600 to 1,000 in. So
that's no dabble.
Thank you. Yeah. Because in the graphic history of hip hop, there's like 200, 250 portraits.
Right, just there. Yeah, alone. Yeah, for sure.
And you can't, when you're doing portraits, you can't like do what you think. You have to do what is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So even when you're hunting down your reference, you can get a person in there, but that doesn't look like the person. You have to kind of just be able to time it correctly. So doing the graphic history of hip hop was a marriage between the written word and the image working together. Okay. As not just as a comic book, but as a graphic history that's telling the story of what actually happened, but doing it in such a way where it's delivering the most intense level of content possible in a way that can communicate.
Sure.
And that's what it was. And all this happening around the 50th anniversary. It was a very intense period of time, and now we're on the second volume. Walter delivered the script a little bit early this year, and now I'm working on it and getting everything together. And the 24-page, which is actually be 30 pages this time, That'll
Right.
be ready, God willing, in the next month and a half, at least my part. And then, on to finishing volume 2 of the full
Yeah.
on graphic history of hip hop, volume 2, which you can also be used as a weapon if you buy it in hardcover.
I do have it in hardcover. This is good.
There you
Good
go.
point.
So you're
Good point.
protected, man. You got
I'm
life
protected down
insurance.
here. Yeah, my
Yeah.
floppy book ain't gonna help nothing happen. But so you bring up a good point. Like I come from journalism, but I also come from the culture. So it's that marriage you talk about having journalistic integrity. Like you're putting this together. You have to be. You don't want to be that guy that did the Kobe statue. You know what I mean? Or they're gonna look at you like, what? What? That doesn't look like. That's right. The Kobe statue, or the Iverson, whatever the small one was, that didn't look right.
Dwayne Wade.
Yeah. So you don't want to be that person that kind of gets it wrong. So there's that. So I want to talk a little bit about that because there was obviously decisions that had to be made. Well, from your point of view, like what goes in this book. But it is the difference between the graphic novel and graphic history. And so I just wanted to point that, and highlight what
So
you're saying
real.
there. That
It's so real.
different than just having like artistic license, but still want to have some
You can't
artisan
just do what
qualities.
you want.
Yeah, but still wanted to kind of flavor it up a little bit the way you envision it. So let's talk about that. How difficult was it to make decisions? Before I do that, actually, what's interesting is that it's a graphic history of hip hop, and it doesn't start with hip hop. Like hip hop's not the first thing you see. You see the civil rights movement. We talk about there's MLK, there's JFK. There's references to the Last Poets and all the other kind of precursors of the movement, right? Precursors of the culture. Why that decision, and why was that so important to make it clear that those were certainly not all, but some of the important precursors to hip hop in general?
I mean, that's absolutely back on what the schools needed.
Yeah.
So this is for social studies classes. This is
Okay.
designed for people in high school. So there's one level, of course, going up in the Bronx and just talking about the literal story that's been told
Right.
about the 50 years of how the street parties and Cool Herc originated.
Sure.
But to leave out these folks who were like, I couldn't imagine doing this without talking about James Brown.
Right.
And so, you just think of like the influence of James Brown's beats on that first decade and a half.
For sure.
It would be completely illegitimate to leave out these elements when you're teaching historical analysis. And so that's the real difficulty in the core of it in terms of writing, is that there's a training that you have to have as a professional historian that says, okay, what are the antecedents? What are the things that existed before? And that plays out on every page, where it's not just the things that came before, but it's the unexpected effects, the unintended consequences that come out of each choice that these artists, these performers made. And so when you're going to look at something like Def Jam has this very specific agenda about how they want to put their craft together and how they're going to promote their work. But they didn't intend necessarily, they couldn't envision Rockefeller Records spinning out from that a decade later.
Right.
Like, there's all these unintended ways, and I do a lot of work around this, is that in history, almost everything is determined by the unintended consequence.
Right.
And so that's not something that's going to come from any other kind of like fiction writing. They're just not trained to deal with the kind of unpredictable changes that come out of whatever you intend to make happen.
Right.
And so that's the biggest difference, is that when you look at some other folks who do just the testimonial approach to hip hop and try to capture like the individual voice and the
The
moment,
oral history kind of.
yeah, exactly. There's not even oral history, really. It's really just an interview, because oral history's got its own kind of benchmarks and requirements and ways of approaching it.
Yeah.
But like, those pieces aren't dealing with the structure. And that's been the amazing conversation Tim and I have, is looking at the bigger world that grows out of the way that hip hop evolves. And so one of the big comments we get is, why do you have Nelson Mandela in the midst of this? But if you're looking at the anti-apartheid struggle through the 80s, like, how do you talk about Public Enemy and not make reference to anti-apartheid? And the fact that Nelson Mandela's freedom had this enormous impact globally. And hip hop was at the front edge of that.
Sure.
So that's the whole thing about the historical method, is we're illustrating what took me 25, 30 years to combine being shaped by hip hop with the path that I chose in becoming a professional historian. And there's really no other, like graphic history. You had graphic novels that talked about historical topics before, but you never had a graphic history that incorporated professional historical writing and thought into an
Mm.
educational product that then illustrated it. And so it wasn't so much
Right.
about what you can do in an interview. It's about the national and global impact that came out of the most impactful pieces. And of course, it's going to be shaped by my sense of hip hop. So
Sure.
coming out of like that Newark metro, having these influences from Trenton, influences from Philly, like the way the roots impacted me as a young person as I started teaching hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, that's all. That's why the native tongues page is so important to the center of the book. So there's just different approaches that come because of the specifics of me being the writer and Tim being the artist.
Yeah. Tim, what was the challenge of like translating all that, you know, that the important factors before, during, after, and impact globally, and working in all those references?
Yeah, it was a challenge. I call it a burden. That's the burden of what we do as graphic history,
Yeah.
Operators. Effectively, what you're doing is trying to decode this really dense geopolitical history of hip hop, but you're trying to do it within the context of what Walter, because Walter is the expert on the subject. But so what my job is to not just make it look good, but to make it look coherent, and that the story flow, that people can get it, because it is a teaching tool.
Right.
It's also entertainment. I'm gonna make it entertainer.
Sure.
Entertainer. I can't help that.
Right.
But three, there's also and it's the part I don't talk about as much. It's the aesthetic. It's gotta look a certain way. It's gotta look dope. You know what I mean? I want people to be able to look at the illustration of what I did of all of the operators and see that, wow, clearly this guy put time into it. He put care into it. And also, not as well known is there are certain images in there where some of the illustrators are well over 30 years old. The Public Enemy pieces, the Queen Latifah piece, which is so interesting because I just sketched her the following weekend because I was at San Diego Comic-Con and she was moderating the Lucas Museum piece with George Lucas. So I had a chance to draw her again, in a real quick sketch.
Get a little update.
So,
right.
Yeah, it's and that really gets to it. I mean, think about that. Think about what I just said. I just said that the guy who basically formed a lot of the techno cultural landscape of the world, George Lucas, right? We wouldn't have nonlinear editing, visual effects in the can. We wouldn't have any of that stuff if it wasn't for that guy. He was introduced to Hall H by Latifah. You see what I'm saying? I'm sorry. Oh, there's goosebumps there. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. That's what the graphic history of hip hop is. Let
me do one thing real quick to just celebrate Tim for a second. All right. So
okay, you gonna bust it. See, I always bust him. So go ahead. You earned it, brother. Go for it.
Let me do this just one thing, because I know Manny's gonna know this, and this is the heart of what we love about hip hop. Is at the core of it is the sonic force. It's at the scratch, at that beat. If your beat isn't dope, you can't be in the room. Like, I don't care what your lyrics are. You bring all the brilliance. You got something hot you want. The beat is the foundation. And we talk about that as sonic force in hip hop. I think of like so many folks talk about the Shockley Brothers and Public Enemy, like louder than a bomb. Like that's how they came in the room with that. Right. Tim, you have invented visual force. What you do with your illustrations. No, you know this. You know this.
Thank you,
when you hit the audience and the people open the page, the first thing they see are your colors, your blends, and how you put it together and how you've made this cohesive. That visual force is the heart of what makes this project run. And so just like George Lucas, just like any of these other pioneers, you have laid the table down and challenged us to raise our game the same way all of the DJs and producers hit us with hip hop over the last 50 years. You have done that. That's going to animate and like expand our visual lexicon with products like we see this weekend with Eyes of Wakanda. Like they're looking at what you have done and following your path to make that kind of visual impact.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
This is true.
Thank you. Thank you. I would just say this in response to it. It's gonna have our name on it. You understand what I'm saying? It was gonna have our name on it. We couldn't let it go out and it not look a certain way. But as both of us are practicing Afrofuturists, and as an Afrofuturist, you're responsible for not just performing an action, but you're trying to innovate while performing that action. So you're embracing advancing technology. You're embracing how you alter or how you utilize a specific storytelling technique. So Walter may have something in the script, but there are things that are implied in his words, sometimes in between the words.
Right.
So my job was to be able to take that while making, it's got to be beautifully rendered and all that. That's the stuff you kind of get for, well, it's not for free because it put both of us in the hospital to do it. But I'm just saying that's the part that's expected. That's the
default.
That's the default.
Yeah.
But what you're trying to do is innovate in storytelling while telling a story that has already happened. And that was the goal. That was the goal. It's always been the North Star.
Yeah.
It's always been the North Star. And when we turned that initial flapping into a company, then it became real. I mean, it was already real, but then it became this bigger thing. It's taking us all over the United States.
Yeah.
It's had us in the media. Again, Manny, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
And it's, just speaking for myself personally, it's not just made me a better artist. It's allowed me to be exposed and my work to be exposed to people who never would have seen it before. I was talking with one of my friends the other day. I'll be very quick about this. I was on the Afrofuturism panel, and the Afrofuturism panel was fairly well attended, right? But then we go to the comic panels, and the comic panels are, sometimes people there, sometimes they're not, right? But then we went to the hip hop and comics panel. Walter was on that panel last year, and I was on it this year, right? And it was packed.
Was Regina Bradley there? Dr. Bradley?
No, she wasn't on that panel, but she was in attendance at San Diego,
I saw her talking about. Yeah,
on this panel was like Sanford Green, who does Bitterroot and Doom, and several others. Patrick Reed is the person who organized that. He's the one who handled that.
Got it.
And we've been fortunate in that he's allowed the Graphic History Company to be represented at this landmark San Diego Comic-Con 2 years straight.
Right.
And you see what I'm saying? And it was packed. You know what I mean? Right. That's what's important, is that our work is penetrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful, I guess, natural evolution, right? You see the other elements of hip hop, AKA, in this case, like graffiti or the visual art not always being, forefront and center, nowhere near it. You start seeing maybe some bringing it back around, museums now open up, to hit that, the graffiti museum. But to see sort of not unexpected intersection, because a graphic history novel isn't unexpected to people who know hip hop, because we know that any two things can be thrown together. I got my man Silent. I did a hip hop polka. You can't tell me nothing, but and it's dope. You can't tell me that. So we expect these things to happen, but it's just a nice place for the story to kind of is like a double entendre. It's doing the storytelling, but it's also an iteration of what hip hop visual art is, right? Both in one. Does that make sense?
It does. It's for example,
yes.
Actually, when I was on that panel, one of the guys on the panel was talking about how dance and movement is not as followed as much as he would like.
Right.
I said, yeah, but if you look in the graphic history of hip hop, in the lower right hand corner of every page is a silhouette of a break dancer. So when you flip through it, it gives you animation.
Right.
Because hip hop it's Yeah, it has this music as well. I don't know. When we say the music is the base or the cultural community is the base, it kind of flip. It's kind of morph. It's amorphous. You know, it's like
Understood.
the
Yeah, yeah.
blob. But the objective is what you're doing as a practitioner of graphic history is you are functioning in multiple spaces. You're functioning as a museum.
Yeah.
You're functioning as a narrative story, but you're also functioning as a written archive from a scholarship point of view.
Right.
But at the same time, you're trying to keep the lyricism, and you can't make sound, but you're certainly trying to show what the sound looks like.
Right. Visual representation of it. Yeah. That's it.
And
Yeah.
it is a multi-headed hydra.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remove one tentacle, two more come to replace.
Right. Well, and that I asked it earlier, but I never really asked it. And so, how do you decide what to put in this thing and what to leave out? Like, there's got to be I don't know if it's just a vibes, we just do it on vibes, or is there a system? Because you didn't cover everything, and people are gonna be like, hey, you can't. How you gonna do a history of da 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 and you don't include da da da? I mean, there's a million of those possibilities. So, I made my book was a collection of some of the interviews from my podcast, and I interviewed 100 brilliant people, but I had to pick 12 that were like kind of they told the story overall. So then you can go digging into the rest and figure it out. Listen to who you want to listen to yourself. What process and how difficult and challenging was that?
I want Walter to say that first, but I would just add a very brief my take.
Sure.
It is ongoing. There's no such thing as an end. That's why we have
Hence
multiple volumes.
Right.
Yeah, and there will be a volume 3.
Right. Yeah. It turns into a potentially, as long as y'all are living and breathing, a living and breathing document, a living and breathing series. But yeah, Walt, tell me how what made this? You knew it was gonna be the first one out of the gate, so there were certain things you had to have. Like you said, you couldn't not have James Brown. But how do you decide? I mean, and you, I don't want to say
my personal experience.
Yeah,
so,
and again, I was just gonna say real quick.
I come up listening to Red Alert and Chuck Senegal.
You also added like Arsenio Hall, like that's like not everyone would have done that, So okay, personally, I'm a Red Alert fan as well. I mean, obviously,
that's what I'm saying.
Chuck,
like
but
if you were listening to BLS and Kiss, like that was the
this
core.
Was
we were in New York City. Like we were doing this for New York's children's, New York's families.
Yeah.
Like we're grounded in New York. We get caught all the time. There's not enough Chicago, not enough Philly. Like this is not the comprehensive universal graphic history of hip hop.
Right.
This was a project designed for New York City schools that then we built out to show this broader timeline. But that's why we have 2 additional volumes planned, is that we knew if you tried to do something that was comprehensive and universal, complete, quote unquote, and this is the other thing, any professional historian will tell you, there's never a complete history of anything.
Right.
Like it's especially
hip hop.
And this is what I'm saying. So like in history, the most popular 2 subjects are the Civil War in the United States and World War II. And that has to do with just publishing demands. Publishers want content, and really old, rehashed content, repackaged all the time just to sell more books on those 2 topics. So if you found every book on Civil War and World War II, you might think you have a complete or universal history. You'll have 25,000 books, but there's still missing pieces.
Yeah.
And so all we needed to do was put together what works in that classroom, what lets us tell that 50-year story in a compelling way. And so the big example we talk about often is Kanye West. And so we have an approach to Kanye that shows up in the expanded graphic history, but the city did not want that in the 24-page initial comic. They were like, listen, he is unacceptable. We will not allow our children to come across this. And so that's a perfect example of like decision making. We're working on a team.
Right.
The Civics for All group, I want to say at the core is probably 12 people. But then when you get into all the other artists and writers who are involved, you're talking about hundreds of people contributing and giving insight about what kind of content is legit to be included in a school setting.
Yeah.
And so that's what the process is, like I have my voice, and my voice is going to carry some weight in terms of what goes in. But then Tim is going to talk about, well, why don't we do it from this angle or put it in this light? The Arsenio Hall piece was a genius breakthrough on his part to be like, yo, how are we dealing with Arsenio as mainstreaming hip hop through media? Like there's other pieces, you want to tell that Hef D story with Will
Well,
Smith
see,
and Kid and Play. That page took some time to evolve and emerge the way
oh
it
my
did.
God,
So there's
man. It
every
was,
single panel has a story behind it
Behind the story.
about how the edits came together and what the actual narrative was.
Yeah. Yeah. The blessing and a curse of working with, institutions and
that's
yeah.
the word. That's
Yeah.
the word, because it's, it's what's the word? Never ask a historian for a timeline. Don't do it. I
We will go
learned
off.
that on this job, right? Because
Right.
initially it was the floppy, it was 24 pages. Our business partner, operations manager Christina, was like, "Oh, they're giving away the phone because you can download the comic for free, right?"
Right.
So it was like, well, we're going to expand it, but I'm thinking, well, it'll get expanded. 15 pages, maybe 20 pages, no worries, we'll be good. And I tell this guy, hey man, I need you to go home and write up, just give me a breakdown of a general overview of hip hop history, right? And I'll do a sentence, do a thing, no problem. And I was going to put it on the website. This guy comes back with 45 years worth of breakdowns. I'm like, and that's when I learned,
Right.
never ask a historian for a timeline. They will give you a dissertation on it. But the beauty of it was that he effectively did the graphic novel. Because all of those years, right, that timeline was an additional page, which then led to something else. So, for example, you can't have, okay, we had an image of Will Smith. Okay, but I get around to it. But then one of my good friends is Calvin Reed, who I show him what's happening. He goes, "Oh, so that means my brother's gonna be in there, right?" And I went, yeah. Who's his brother? Calvin's Reed brother is Christopher Reed from Kid and Play. So okay, so I put them there. But then you can't really have Will Smith without Fresh Prince. And then you can't have Kid without Play.
Right.
And then when you put those things together, you begin to understand that these guys' careers were slipstreaming at the same time.
Right.
So Will was pulling from Kid and Play. They were very similar.
Right. Linked in a way. Yeah.
But out of that group, the best actor was Heavy D, who was in the same vibe. So all that image went through like 5 different iterations.
Wow.
And that's so when you're like, how is that, how do you do this thing, in particular with this particular subject, with this guy writing it? Yeah. It's iterative. Like, let's say super iterative.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like on every page, we're going through and doing like revision in the writing. Then we got to go through and do revisions with the images.
Right.
And then we're going through and deciding, okay, what is the lyric? What is the sound that we're going to communicate? Because really on each page, we're designing an experience and we want people to see the images. But then when you start to process what you see, the first thing we want you to read on each page is the lyric.
Yeah. You start hearing
the lyric and the memory of that sound is what's going to give you the emotional content for what the history is.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the most basic structures throughout the entire piece is we craft an image, we offer a sound, and then we start to teach the history out of what you see and hear.
Yeah. Got it. What has been one of the most, you say you've been all around the country, obviously doing, those type of conferences and just being around, book signings and all the good things that, authors get to do. What has been some of the most unexpected response? Anything that stands
with the school,
out?
The elementary school?
Off the bat, when the middle schoolers stormed and flipped tables and tried to pull us to the ground and told us like, yo, why didn't you bring us more?
Okay.
And it was captured on video. That was not safe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was not safe.
And again, this is middle schoolers, now who, weren't even alive when most of this book happened in real life, but they recognize it as something,
Unlike all the stuff they get in school.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
just completely different from what their standard school experience
Of
is.
course.
And it validates what they value and how they see themselves. And so, like, not only them, but like the teachers bug out. Like,
of course,
everybody's just like this love, this energy that is weeded out of what they're supposed to be doing professionally to be good in school. Now it lets their standard step up. Like, how many lyrics from KRS to Dead Prez going forward, Immortal Technique, talk about how deadening education is and how it kills the soul. And this thing comes in and is like, nah, we're going to make education about you and about the life that you bring to it. And your voice has authority. It's a revolution for them when they get to it. Like, it's so many pieces of it that are valuable and surprising. I guess the kids in that first meeting, they were like, "Where's Kanye?" When they first saw the free ones in school, they
okay, because they had some reference of
because they recognized the absence. They wanted to say, "Why did we stop at '06?" Like, and we're like, we just tied it off with Hip Hop Is Dead and Nas, but like they wanted everything going up to the present day, and I had to. Like, volume 2 is all the last 20 years. Like, it's just like, it's not history. I'll be very frank, because history really can't be written until after the people who are living it have kind of moved past it. There's a great book that does this is, what's my man's name? James Lowen, Lies My Teacher Told Me, also been adapted into a graphic novel. That piece, he talks about there's living memory, which is all the things that we remember because we're alive and we put it together. And there's the memory of the things from the people who have passed away. And then there's separate from that is history, which actually leaves evidence of the people who are now gone. And then we're stitching it back together in the present. And so something that's just happened in the last 2 years, no historian thinks that's really history. We're not far enough away from it yet for us to make a historical judgment.
Got it. Understood. And that insight from a historian, is very valuable. Tim, I'll ask you yours, but real quick, I want to say, well, what it invokes to me is very meta that, all the time on this show and throughout my work, I, extol the virtues of hip hop as pedagogy, right? Culturally relevant, culturally responsive, culturally affirming pedagogy. We talk about it all the time. This is that. But it's also it's hip hop being, it's very meta. It's hip hop being its own evidence of hip hop being, a relevant pedagogical tool. You can do that in 1,000 different ways, where you just even bring in influences that aren't so on the surface hip hop, but this is like fully hip hop being used as an example of that. It's a beautiful example of seeing, like you said, the joy in young people.
It's just a gift back to I couldn't be the historian I am if hip hop hadn't existed.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
absolutely.
have been a historian, period. I wouldn't have been in academics if it hadn't been for KRS and Chuck. Like that demand for Black history and my realization of how absent it was.
Yeah.
They invented who I am. So this is me just giving it back.
Brilliant. Tim, what do you think? What stuck out as you besides the being mobbed? I don't know how many graphic novel illustrators get mobbed by middle school kids. It's probably probably first.
That was memorable.
Yeah.
That in terms of the actual event, that's the one that when I knew, oh, this is something different than what I've done before, what I've been associated before. But beyond that, been in the Smithsonian with Walter, been in the Smithsonian doing the signing of our book doing a full several days of workshops in the Smithsonian. In the Smithsonian, man.
Come on. Yep. Come on with it.
Not like around the corner. Well, I'm just hanging out. No, in the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Me and Christina, Walter, giving a presentation showing what we done in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I'm not even talking about the Spin magazine stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about being in San Diego. That was cool. It was fun. It's great.
Yeah.
But in the institutions where you will not naturally find hip hop.
Yeah.
It was there because of what we do.
Yeah.
And what we are doing is just talking about this form, which is clearly reformed and reshaped the geopolitical culture of the planet Earth at this point. It's everywhere. I mean, a black culture, that's what it is. I mean, when you see a Target commercial that I saw, and literally the soundtrack for it was George Clinton and People. That's when you know. That's when you know. So that's what we've done. And I'm very proud of it. Again, it's made me a better artist. It's taken me to places that I never thought I would have been. That was a question. I don't mind saying publicly, well, am I the person to do this job? But I'm like an actor. If you're a pro, you do whatever you do the job.
Yeah.
But you try to embed within the job heart and heartfeltness, and that's what I attempted to do. And couldn't have done it without Walter's nod and insistence that it be, because he did, even though he's saying I'm the first person, he could have gone somewhere else. He definitely could have done it.
Tim, what about the other audiences that you kind of intersect with? You said, musically, you kind of move in a different space. Afrofuturism, obviously hip hop is Afrofuturism, right? I mean, that's, but there might've been folks in those other areas that weren't too familiar. What do those folks think about
it's interesting. It's interesting. Hip hop is bigger than Afrofuturism.
Yeah.
Hip hop is like, I mean, let's be very clear. Mm-hmm. I'm admitting for the record, Mr. Square here. I'm a square, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Hip hop is bigger than almost every cultural movement on planet Earth at this point. This point,
I have stated the same thing, so we're in alignment.
Hey, look, I would never have admitted that, but what has happened is that because Walter and I are both practicing Afrofuturism, what it's done is allowed us to take the modality of attention to detail and application of visual and research-based love, taking that, but utilizing it for hip hop. So effectively what we're doing, I don't know if anyone ever rode bikes before, why when you go to a bunch of bikers, they ride in a long line. It's because what's happening, the people behind the lead right, they're slipstreaming. Mm-hmm. They're riding through effectively a wind tunnel.
Right.
And that's what we're doing. And it has exposed the operators in the Afrofuturist realm, but also in the realms of dance, music, scholarship. I would say we have definitely engaged the bookstore culture pretty extensively. Walter, I make fun of him because I enjoy it, but this guy wrote this book, but he's in a endowed chair at a Minneapolis. Right. The school where Kofi Annan went, this the same guy, got the chair with the stand, got the metal plate on the plaque and everything. But he also got this huge Black Scholarship Award. When was that? What was that? Earlier this year?
Oh yeah. No, National Council of Black Studies.
He's trying to, oh yeah, right. I forgot. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, this book has penetrated in so many different areas. Yeah. And, I've been involved in governmental policy. I can't believe I'm saying that, it has taken us.
We need more folk like you involved in governmental policy, if you ask me.
At the end of the day, I can just notice how I put my fingers up, right?
I know.
I'm just a comic book artist, right? But it's taken us to so many different places. And I suspect, just based upon things that Senegal. Senegal is next month for a graphic history company. I'll let Walter talk about that. It's a lot of incredible things
if you really know Senegal and hip hop and politics, there's an enormous intersection very recently there. So again, I know some things.
Yes, indeed.
I'm not just a podcaster.
Oh no, man, we're not saying that.
No. I'm jumping on your. I'm taking your thing and riding with it. For anyone watching.
Okay.
I know you know.
Yeah, no. Let me just jump in for a quick minute with that. It's like, Tim, said it so perfectly, is that this just opened all these doors, and that's what hip hop is.
Yeah.
Like when I talk about in the essay at the back, it's like it's the ultimate rose that grows from concrete. Like this was not supposed to happen in this way.
Yeah.
But now billions of people take hope and joy and courage from what hip hop does. And so my primary thing, like, yeah, hip hop is my foundation. But right behind that is what became Afrofuturism, Black science fiction, the kinds of art and ideas that came from Octavia Butler and Dwayne McDuffie and from Tim Fielder. And so getting to work with him at Planet Deep South back in the day, more than 10 years
Oh,
ago
man.
now, where like he took a legendary, like a Great Day in Harlem type photo at that event. And everybody in there is like a global celebrity now. They're all doing extraordinary work. Just like I said, the Eyes of Wakanda piece was the same. I was in the same clique as those folks who wrote and produced that 20 years ago when I wrote a document that became the Wakanda syllabus, and then in 2018 becomes the Black Panther movie.
Right.
Like, that's just one thing. But like this shirt I'm wearing, this is Rondo neighborhood, the block party this past Saturday. It was one of the earliest independent Black neighborhoods in the United States in 1831 out here in Minnesota. They punched a highway through it, saying it was a slum when it was one of the wealthiest Black communities in the country. And now we're rebuilding it. We actually have a $25 million plan to restore everything that was lost. And so this work that I'm doing, whether it's in Afrofuturism or in hip hop or Wakanda or Rondo, graphic history is where it comes together. And that's why Tim's saying in Dakar, Senegal, September 12th to 15th, we're bringing together a global audience of Afrofuturists who are doing all this different kind of work to launch the next phase, because everybody is feeling the assault globally of white nationalism and this reimposition of empire. But we got the plan that's happening in Senegal that we're launching independence that's built on hip hop and Afrofuturism, led by Ronaldo Anderson, who is very much like me, the distinguished chair, the head of the program following Malefi Asante at Temple University. And so this work is about to take a leap forward through the end of 2025 into 2026, where we're building the world the way it should have been, without slavery, without segregation, without imperialism. And so that's what's happening. The event is called Future Waves. Folks can jump in online. It's an amazing thing. If you go by graphichistorycompany.com, click on the Future Waves tab, you'll get all the information. But that thing is literally going to reinvent the world in the same way that hip hop did over the last 50 years, the same way that Afrofuturism has done in the last decade. Future Waves has taken us into the future very, very, very quickly. And so I hope everybody will participate.
Sounds like a brilliant event. Thank you for bringing that up and bringing it to my attention. I was not aware. I often joke, the name of this show, Hip Hop Can Save America, the name of, the book, Hip Hop Can Save America, inspiration for the nation from a culture of innovation. Subtitle. I mean, we all know these things, and I had to write a book about it, have some brilliant people, tell the kind of stories we're telling about the innovations and the ingenuity and the, abashed, mitigated gall to change everything that, was trying to prevent people from being who they should be. And they always say to me, hip hop can save the world too. And I'm like, yeah, no, I own that domain name. I'm coming.
That's right.
But so to that point, those influences we're seeing globally, we're seeing it come together in the form of books, but also the people who made the books being at those tables, bringing all of this together. It's definitely, it is the futurism that the world needs.
Yo, nobody could say it better, man. Yo,
Yeah, man.
Love the work you do with the pod. And like I said, man, I'm teaching your book. I promise you. I'm going to get my copies. My students this semester are going to be reading that.
I appreciate that very much. Peter Lang. Peter Lang is where it's published. So, they're ready for you.
Gotcha.
Listen, I appreciate that. Let me let y'all go. I just wanted to ask, and I was going to say, obviously, where you're going to be next. You've already told me the next thing. You're going to be in Senegal. Anything else the good folks who are tuning in and turning up with us should know about y'all individually or collectively?
I have gone head first into the streaming world now. So I stream 5 days weekly on the Diesel Funk Dispatch. where I show the work on a graphic novel as I'm doing it, not just like fan art. I do the actual project. So Graphic History Volume 2 will be
Brilliant.
produced
That's
on
cool.
that streaming service. And also, we have the Graphic History Company podcast. We interviewed Nate Powell. We'll hope to be interviewing John Jennings very soon. And we've gone all in on the media component. That'll be a more virtual aspect of the Graphic History Company.
Okay. Looking forward to all that.
Oh, and you
That's
can find me everything Dieselfunk at Dieselfunk.
Dieselfunk.
Twitter at Dieselfunk. Facebook at Dieselfunk. Instagram, everything. Yes.
That's a good kind
I'm
of
working
funk.
on Twitch though.
All right. All right. Well,
so yeah, for me, everybody can follow up, connect with me at Walter D. Greason, just my name.com, Walter D. Greason, but also at graphichistorycompany.com.
Yep.
I invite everybody in the next 3 months, August, September, October, come out to McAllister College, MACALESTER, McAllister College. This is a place, it is a paradise. Like, y'all will not believe it. People think Minnesota is like Alaska. It is absolutely not. Like, and we get people from all over the world because of the influences of folks like Kofi Annan, and also talking about, we got the folks who wrote Roots were based out here. Sounds of Blackness are all McAllister alums.
Oh, okay.
And so like it's a amazing site for Black cultural expression that extends around the world.
If you teach the book, you want to bring me up there, I'll come up to that paradise. You ain't got to say but a word.
Let's do it.
So, all right, very good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the work y'all do, individually and collectively. Thank you for spending some time with me and finally getting this down. Long overdue, but certainly worth the wait. I appreciate y'all.
You're the best, Manny. Thank you.
All right.
Manny Faces. You sick for this one. Sick for this one. Sick.